7 to 11. And he starts off by saying, there is nothing beyond me, there is nothing higher than me. Matta parataram nanya. This is the highest. When he says nothing higher than me, you remember yesterday we spoke of three things. Kshara, perishable world. Akshara, imperishable aspect of the perishable world. And Uttama Purusha. To refresh your memory, let's take an example. Suppose a city kid in Bombay says, oh, I've never seen mud. Where do you get mud? Where do you see clay? So you look at an earthenware pot and you say, yeah, this is clay. And then the kid says, it misunderstands and feels that clay is of that particular shape, size, color, etc. So you understand that the child has misunderstood the whole thing and say, no, it is not this particular name and form, it's not this shape and size and color. It is the material with which this pot is made. So what do? You crush that earthenware pot and take the powder and say, look, this is clay. So what are you doing? First you show the perishable aspect, kshara, which is the clay pot. Then because the child has misunderstood and has seen it as a perishable thing, you break it, powder it, and show the clay and say, look, this clay with which the perishable pot has been made is clay, the imperishable aspect of the perishable clay pot. You understand? Akshara. But then, one day you take the child on a weekend to Mathiran, and there, when he speaks of mud, where the whole of Mathiran is full of mud, the child thinks of the earthenware pot in Bombay and says, oh, clay, mud is there. To which you say, no, that clay is not restricted to the powder which came out of the mud pot. Mud exists way beyond that mud pot, it's all pervading, it's everywhere in the world. Uttama Purusha. Right? So, if you only show the clay pot, he thinks it's perishable. Then you powder it and show the powder, his concept of mud is still restricted to the clay pot. So you have to smash that concept and say, no, it's beyond, way beyond that. Similarly, when you and I ask, so where is God? God is here everywhere in the world, in the universe. So then we misunderstand and think God is perishable, because everything in the world is perishable. So he says, no, this is not, this is kshara, perishable. There is the substratum, the imperishable aspect of the perishable universe, which is God. Akshara. Even then you haven't got it, because your concept of God becomes finite, restricted, limited to the universe. So he smashes that concept also and he says, no, I exist beyond the universe, Uttama Purusha. Then you don't understand anything. But I mean it, because God is beyond intellectual conception. That's when you begin to understand. That's when the Kenopanishad he comes up. I know it, I don't know it. Not that I know it, I know it. So he speaks in terms of contradictions because it's beyond intellectual conception. Anyway, coming back. So here he's saying, when he says there is nothing beyond me, he's referring to me means what? Uttama Purusha. That Brahman, unmanifest Brahman which exists beyond the universe. Because the universe and the substratum of the universe is only a minuscule, infinitesimal disturbance in the entire mass of Brahman, which is infinite. So naturally there's nothing higher than me, O Dhananjaya. All this is strung on me like rows of pearls on a string. Sarvamidam. See, it's like this. when you go to a puppet show and you see the puppets are kshara, perishable, lower prakriti, as he said, we saw yesterday. Then you go to a puppet show, there's a little child there, the child is completely carried away by the puppet show and she thinks that is real. That little girl has an older brother who's about 12, 13. That older brother, he thinks he's very wise because he tells the little sister, what are you getting so carried away by? You see the strings there? That's what makes the puppets move. So he is sitting there, alipta, detached, because he understands that it's the strings that operate. That strings are higher prakriti, akshara. And you, the adult, knows that there is a man sitting there with the fingers, and the puppeteer is the real person who drives this whole show. Similarly, you and I see the world. We are like that little girl, children. We get carried away by the world. Among us, there is one stray, wise person who understands that there is something beyond the world. And this is what he's coaxing us, he's goading us towards, to see the strings. And look beyond that and you see the puppeteer. And what an experience that must be. What a wonderful experience, because then and only then do you get completely free of what the world has to offer. Because let's face it, when you are operating in the world, how do you operate? You see, hear, taste, smell, touch. Every one of these is subject to the pairs of opposites. It may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant. You may hear nice things, you may hear vicious things. You may see pleasant sights, you may see unpleasant sights. So you are buffeted by these pairs of opposites as long as your attention is on the object of experience. So what he's trying to do is, he's trying to get us to see the root of the experience, trace it back. And how do you trace it back? Irrespective of what it is that you see, hear, smell, taste, touch. What is it that enables me to do all these things? Is one. Right? So what happens is, in our experience, we experience a diversity, a divergence. Because seeing is not hearing, hearing is not tasting, tasting is not smelling, smelling is not touching. They're all diverse experiences. Yet when you trace it back to their very source, there's only one. There is that one spirit, one Atman that enables me to see, hear, taste, smell, touch. Then you move to emotions. I feel joy, I feel sorrow, anger, jealousy, hatred, love, so on and so forth. These are all various emotions, different emotions. But you trace those emotions back. What is it in me that enables me to feel these emotions is one. Then move to the intellect. Thoughts can be confused, you can have clarity of thinking, you can have brilliant thinking, you can have dull thinking. But all these are supported by, facilitated by that one power, Atman. This is true convergence. Modern technology speaks of convergence, right? They don't know what convergence is. It's the Bhagavad Gita that talks about true convergence. Whatever happens in your life, you trace it back and you find there is one entity. And that one entity is unaffected by what happens around us. And once you get there, you break free from the limitations of the body, mind, and intellect. This is the significance behind the birth of Krishna. Krishna was born in a prison, but the moment he was born, they say, the prison gates flung open. It meant Krishna was an avatara purusha, means realized at birth. So even though he was born within the confines of the body, mind, and intellect, the moment he was born, he gained freedom from the body, mind, and intellect. That body, mind, and intellect which crushes us, imprisons us, had no effect on him whatsoever. This is something that we need to work towards. And you can work towards it only when you have exposure to this knowledge. That exposure must be every day. We clean everything about us. We clean our homes, we clean our cars, we clean our bodies, we bathe, all kinds of things we clean, except our minds. And this spring cleaning of the mind needs to take place every single day. So, as you gain this exposure, you develop that, as they call it, the opening of the third eye. Means you see the same things. You see the superficial things. You see the diversity. But instantly, you go back to that unity that keeps the whole thing going. Then, and only then, do you gain this peace of mind. So, there is nothing beyond me, O Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya, he says, because all of us are expert at gaining the wealth outside of ourselves. Isn't it so? Morning to night, particularly in this city, the commercial capital of India, everything is around money. Whether it's a stockbroker or a real estate agent or an executive or whatever it is, we're very good at accessing the wealth of the world. But in calling us Dhananjaya, their suggestion is, why don't you look within and access this infinite storehouse of wealth within? Next verse, please, 8.
Rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayoho pranava sarva vedeshu shabda khe paurusham nrushu.
I am the taste in water, O Kaunteya. I am the brilliance in the moon and sun. I am Pranava, the syllable Om, in all the Vedas. I am sound in space and valor among human beings. O Kaunteya, he says, son of Kunti, in a very affectionate way, because Krishna and Arjuna were dear friends, they were like brothers. And where there is an atmosphere of love and affection, the knowledge goes through faster. So, I am the rasa in water. Rasa means taste, flavor, relish. But it also means aesthetic delight, spiritual delight. So what he's saying here is, water is in fact a tasteless liquid, as you know. Water per se, pure water, is tasteless. Yet, without water, there is no taste in anything. If you were to take a desiccated powder, dehydrated stuff, and try and taste it, there's no taste in it. So, water by itself is tasteless, and yet water lends taste to everything. That's why he says, I am the rasa. And so is it in our lives. Whatever you experience, you can earn a great deal of money, you can have the most wonderful family, you can do whatever you like in the world. But minus spiritual knowledge, minus this base of the spirit, minus this contact with Atman in whatever way, even in the slightest way, all your experiences become insipid. It is so true. You go back to your own experience, you look around at people, and you find the truth of the matter is, it is Atman, it is this spiritual alignment that lends flavor, that lends delight and enjoyment to your life. Minus this, there is no enjoyment. You will have everything. You will have all the wealth in the world, you will have a following, you will have family, you will have this, that and the other. But the rasa, the enjoyment will not be there. On the other hand, you find a person who aligns with Atman. He may not have anything in the world, but he'll be in bliss. This is what the scriptures are trying to tell us. Now, this doesn't mean, see, we completely misunderstood this and thought that the Bhagavad Gita is trying to get us to part with our wealth and the worldly contacts. No, it's not trying to. Why would it try to? It's like an adult. As an adult, why would you like to deny a child of toys? But as an adult, you will certainly be interested in the child growing to appreciate better things, more fulfilling things than mere toys. Is that not true? Now, when you as an adult try and tell a child to grow, to appreciate higher things, if the child misunderstands and says, "You're taking away my toys. I don't like you. I hate you. Go away." This is exactly what we're saying. So please understand, no sage in the world will want to take away your toys from you. But every sage in the world wants you to grow, to understand and access far more enjoyable, far more fulfilling and gratifying things that you are heir to. That's what he's saying here. I am the taste in water. It is that consciousness which enables you to operate in the world, and if you are connected with that consciousness, only then can you enjoy what the world has to offer. Then he says, I am the brilliance in the moon and the sun. Sun, direct light; moon, reflected light. Whatever be the source of light, I am that light-giving principle that enables the sun to give direct light, enables the moon to give reflected light. And when he says sun and moon, it's not restricted to only sun and moon. Wherever there is light, I am the source of that light, is what he's saying. The lighting principle in all sources of light is Atman. I am Pranava, the syllable Om in all the Vedas. How beautifully he puts it. The 4 Vedas are exhaustive literature. Thousands and thousands of verses of chaste poetry, chaste literature. But the main theme, the bottom line of all the Vedas is what? Atman. And Om is the most powerful symbol of Atman. Atman, as we said earlier, is beyond the intellect, beyond the 5 elements, beyond the world. So how can you capture it? You need a symbol from the world to focus your attention on, and once you get established in that, move on to the ideal. So the idol, the subtlest idol of Atman is the syllable Om. It's called Pranava, the first syllable. Om comes from 3 alphabets: A, U, Ma. A is a guttural sound. There's no sound beyond A. U is in the middle, and Ma is the extreme beyond which there is no sound. So these 3, A, U and Ma, represent the entire sound phenomenon. Sound is possible because of silence as the background. You can't hear anything against noise. So silence is necessary for you to be able to decipher sound. So A, U and Ma represent the waking, dream and deep sleep states of consciousness. And the substratum of these 3, waking, dream and deep sleep, is the 4th plane of consciousness, the state of realization. And therefore, Om is a very powerful symbol of Atman. This is the intellectual appeal. Now, if you say, now you're getting complicated, I don't want to listen to all that, fine. The very sound of Om inspires people. It has a mesmerizing effect on people. Try it. Sit quietly and say, Om. However agitated you are, temporarily you feel calm. So it has an intonational effect, which appeals to your heart, and it has an intellectual meaning to it, which appeals to your head, both put together, a very, very powerful symbol of Atman. So he says, I am the Pranava, syllable Om in all the Vedas. I am the sound in space, and I am valor among human beings. Paurusham means valor, courage, fortitude. All the good qualities that make for a human being is presented here, and he says, I am this. So why is he talking about the quintessence, the essence of all good experiences? Because you see diversity. These are manifestations. And you get carried away by the manifestations. So when he says this, he is nudging you to look beyond the manifestation, and there you come in contact with Atman. Verse 9.
पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु.
I am the divine fragrance in earth and the radiance in fire. I am the life in all beings, and I am penance in ascetics. In other words, he says, I am the dharma, the quintessence of everything, all experiences. Trace back any experience in your life, you reach Brahman. So therefore, he can't understand how you miss it. And we can't understand how to get it. So there's a complete communication gap between Krishna and us. So what he's saying here is, I am the sweet fragrance. The earth is the first element to be smelled. You know, when it first rains, when the monsoon breaks, the first rains that come, unfortunately in Bombay you don't experience it because there is no mud. There's no earth here. It's all paved. But where there is the sweet fragrance that comes from the earth when there is the first shower is very, very thrilling. So that's what he's referring to. It's the first element which can be smelt. And he says sweet because foul smell agitates the mind. So sweet. Then he says, I am the brilliance in fire, the radiance in fire. The dharma, the essence of fire is brilliance. Can you think of fire without brilliance? It's an essential factor of fire. Then he says, I am the life in all beings. Every living being in the world has a physical component, has a mental component, but these are dead, inert matter. There is something in every living being that lends life. And that life principle is me, is what he's saying here. Life in all beings. An interesting aspect is in the Western culture, they think of evolution of beings, right? In the Vedantic concept, it is not evolution of beings because the essence in all beings is the same, Atma. Then what changes? The structure changes. When the structure gets sophisticated, the manifestation of Brahman that already is there becomes more and more brilliant. It's like electricity in a 0 candle bulb, very dull. Electricity in a 100-watt bulb, bright. Electricity in a bulb in a cricket stadium where you have a day-night match, brilliant. What's the difference in the electricity? Electricity is the same. The difference is in the equipment through which it functions. So if the structure is weak, the manifestation is weak. If the structure is sophisticated, manifestation is brilliant. And then he says something which is very interesting. He says, I am tapaha in tapasvis. What is tapa? Tapas or penance is viewed by us as drudgery, as painful. But in a tapasvi, a person who performs penance, austerity, it's no longer drudgery, it's not a pain, it's a pleasure. Look at a tennis player, Sania Mirza. Look at a golfer, this young girl, what's her name? Michelle Y, 15-year-old girl who's come up in the field of golf. You look at any of these young cricketers. What is their life? Once, Sania Mirza was invited to a function along with me. And one of the audience asked her, what is your daily routine? What's your daily schedule? She says, you don't want to know. Because it's just tennis, tennis, and tennis. That's it. And the way she described it, she can't do what she likes, she can't watch a movie if she likes, she can't eat what she likes. Everything is geared towards tennis. And yet, and the same person asked her, don't you get bored of it? She says, no. Every day of my life is so exciting. I can't imagine life without tennis. That's what it is. So, from the outside, if you are not dedicated to your particular field of endeavor, then it seems like drudgery. But once you're dedicated to it, the pursuit of that itself, the investment of your energies, tapas, is such a pleasure that you wouldn't want to do anything else. Ask a musician who practices 16 hours a day. He finds immense pleasure in just the practice. Ask a sports person. Ask an artist. Recently in the United States, I met with a lady, a fairly elderly lady, who has done pencil sketches. It's so intricate and so delicate and huge sketches that I asked her, I said, oh, how long does it take to finish one? You know what she said? 3 months. Then I asked her, when do you do it? She says, I stay awake the whole night because it's impossible to do it during the day. There are too many distractions. So night after night, she keeps awake for 3 months to complete one sketch. To her, it's a pleasure. To us, who are not artists, it's a pain. So it's a question of how you look at it. Austerity in ascetics. Tapas is the pathway to spiritual enlightenment. In fact, tapas is the pathway, is the means to success in any field of endeavor, but particularly spiritual. What is it? Tapas is nothing but conserving the energy that would otherwise be wasted in unproductive channels and redirecting it towards a goal that you want to achieve. Plain and simple. But it is this conservation of energy that you find painful in the beginning because you want to get distracted. The mind gets distracted. You want to go to a movie, you want to go to a party, you want to go here, there and everywhere. This doesn't mean that a person who's doing tapas can't do all of this. What it means is, once you fix a goal, anything that comes in the way of your attaining the goal, you should have the intellectual power to say no to it. If it does not interfere with the attainment of the goal, by all means, enjoy it. So it's not painful really. It's just a question of having focus. It's a question of giving up your own lower desires for your own higher aspirations. So you don't feel frustrated. So what is he saying here? Brahman is the lord of senses. It is the enlivening principle that enlivens all experiences, and it is the penance in ascetics. Next verse, 10.
Bijam mam sarva bhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham.
Know me, O Partha, son of Pritha, as the eternal seed of all beings. I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the brilliance of the brilliant. So, in this verse, he covers the causal body, subtle body, gross body. When he says, I know me as the eternal seed of all beings, the eternal seed means a seed which causes an effect, but there is no cause-effect relationship. I'll explain. As you walk out of here, if you see a rope lying on the ground, you trip over it. But the rope is placed in such a position, it's coiled in such a way that in the dark you mistake it for a snake. Okay? Your friend who's accompanied you here and you're going out together has better eyesight than you and sees, what does your friend see? The rope. You see the snake, your friend sees the rope, your friend understands that you have misunderstood the rope as a snake. So where did the snake come from? What is the cause of the snake? Ignorance of what? rope. So the rope is, see, what I mean is, if the rope were not there, you would not be seeing the snake, right? So in a way, the rope is the cause of the snake.